Happy New Year!
Happy New Year!
I'm Olivia.
And I'm Amy.
And this is Girls Gone
Gone
Spooky. And it's 2025 for you guys.
Wow.
We're still stuck in 2024, but
Yes.
we're going to treat today like it's 2025.
Yeah, I can't believe it.
I
this
know.
year went really fast.
It went really fast. Like,
Yeah.
I feel like it was like April, and then I was like, oh, that's weird. It's November.
Yeah. When did that happen?
When did that happen? Fast forward.
Exactly. Yeah.
But
did you have a good year?
I mean, there were elements of my year that were very good. I think overall it was a tough year.
Yes.
If I'm being candid.
Yes.
But, you know, we keep on pushing and try and focus on the good stuff. But how about you? Did you have a good year?
Yeah.
I feel like we were in a similar boat. Not like literally in a similar boat,
yes.
but
yeah, it
a
wasn't
tough year.
The best year,
mm-hmm.
but it was also some big accomplishments this year.
Yeah.
So that's good. Yeah.
My baby girl doula.
Yes. And homeowner.
And oh my god, yeah. Holy shit.
On the resolutions for 2024. And
was it really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah. That's so exciting. So homeowner. I forgot that happened this year. That seems like that happened so long ago.
Yes,
yeah.
I agree. Yep. Even
Wild.
though this house is still kind of a mess because I still have some boxes just sitting in the attic rather than unpacking them. So
what's in them?
You know,
nothing you need, I guess.
Yeah. So that probably means I should just get rid of them.
Yeah, just dump
at a certain point. Yeah.
That's so funny. Oh my god.
Yeah. And of course I can't find our Christmas decorations, so maybe I've looked through everything.
They must be in there.
But
you can't find them?
No. All of our lights.
Glitch in the Matrix.
And stuff. Yeah, I know.
Weird.
Yeah.
All right, well, time to buy new stuff.
I guess so.
Yeah. Or maybe it'll magically show up.
Here. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
Well, we have a very 2025-y kind of theme today, which I think was intentional, and then I just forgot that it was intentional because I was like, oh my god, this is the first episode of 2025. So we hope you guys had a wonderful holiday and end of year and first, I think, 10 days of 2025. Yes, 9 days until today.
Yep.
And this is going to be our astrology episode. So we're very excited to talk about this because Amy brought up some cool birth chart shapes. And we were like, okay, there's so much we don't know about this. I thought I knew quite a bit. And I was like, oh, wrong-o.
No, there is so much.
So
much to this. Yes.
Yes. So should I just jump in?
Yes.
Okay, let's do it. So, a natal chart, also known as a birth chart, is a map of the universe at the exact time and place that you were born. I'd say universe is maybe not. Well, but actually, yeah, it is the universe because the stars are really far.
Yes.
So okay, yeah, the universe. I take it back.
I love it.
Astrologers, not to be confused with astronomers,
it's different.
Use this map to understand who you are, but technically speaking, the map is pure astronomy. It describes the location of the planets at a specific moment in time. The planets are shown from the perspective of Earth against the ring of constellations called the zodiac. The sign names are constellations from the perspective of the Earth. Again, at any given time, each planet is in front of one of these constellations. So if you think about the stars of the universe as sort of the backdrop, and if you're looking out into from a specific location on the planet, looking at the sky at a given time, the planets are somewhere along that backdrop. So where they land is basically what defines your birth chart, what helps map it. So there are symbols around the chart. So a lot of the time your birth chart will just be written out in like an Excel grid almost. But if you're looking at a true natal chart, birth chart, it's like in a circle. So it'll show you on the earth, and then it'll show the different constellations around a circle. And then that will have like a little concentric circle that will show signs that represent the planets. So we're not going to go into all of that just because it's like, there's no way for us to show you the exact signs we're talking about. And it just would take a really long time because they're very complex. So I'm going to give just like a fake natal chart, and this is from CoStar Astrology, just to sort of like give a concrete example. So let's look at how CoStar would create a natal chart for a person who was just born. So we'll name this person Nick. So Nick was born at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time on June 13th, 1990 in Milwaukee. So since it is the evening time, 7 p.m. CST, the sun is just setting on the western horizon. If we look to the eastern horizon, we see the constellation of Scorpio, and we see the moon. So it shows like eastern horizon, moon rising, Scorpio's over there, and then on the west, the sun is setting, and then somewhere in the middle, little baby Nick. With this information, we'd then draw the chart like that, where you're right in the center in your location on the planet. We see the eastern horizon on the left side, the western horizon on the right, with those details. And then from there, they map where the rest of the constellations are on the planet all the way around you. So it would go Scorpio, Libra, Virgo, Leo, Cancer, Gemini, Taurus, Aries, Pisces, Aquarius, Capricorn, Sagittarius, all the way back to Scorpio. I did that in one breath.
Rapid fire.
That felt really impressive. And these constellations or zodiac signs are always 30 degrees apart and in the same order. So if you know where one zodiac sign is, then you know where all of the other zodiac signs are too, which I didn't realize. Like, of course they move, like, or we're moving. Right. But anyway, I didn't fully understand that. Like, are they moving? I don't know.
I think that's what was initially thought, that they were moving, but the stars are staying in the same place.
Yes.
We are moving.
Yes.
Around.
Yes. Exactly. So, and then of course, all the other planets are also in the sky too. So adding in Mercury and Venus into the picture, they're orbiting around the sun, which is setting. So they're showing their orbit around, or their movement around the sun. And then there are symbols on the chart that show where they are in their orbits on the moment that Nick was born. So this is why, like, the first piece is like location is so important. So you have the location map, and then the timing is also super important. Not just the day, but the exact time of day, because then they could say, okay, this is where Mars was in its orbit at that time. So this is all very interesting astronomy, which anyone at NASA could understand and agree with. Now, I'll interject here. I don't know that that's entirely true, because I took an astronomy 101 course at university, and some like girl, like a girly pop in the class was like, just like, any questions? Because we were talking about, it was like the star unit, and she was like, so like, where does astrology come in? And she was like, well, it doesn't, because it's not real.
Oh, that's so embarrassing.
I know, it was not great. But so she showed us, though, like, why astronomers don't really believe in astrology and the meaning of it. Like, they will agree, like, these are constellations in the sky. But the way the sky looks to us is two-dimensional. But it's not two-dimensional. It's it's probably more than three-dimensional. But let's just call it three-dimensional for the sake of argument. So if you were to like move your visual from like looking up at the sky, if you were to like lower everything down so you could see depth, these stars are like millions of light years away from each other. Like, they're not really associated with one another. So astronomers, yes, like, they recognize that there are constellations that we can view, but there isn't actually any relationship between those two stars. They're not all on the same level plane. So there's that, like, that is the scientific truth. However, we also operate through our own perception. So who's to say that, yes, they're not associated with one another in the universe, but for whatever reason, this placement of the Earth at this time in this place still can have meaning. And I think that that's where astrologers kind of land. So
Interesting.
Just a quick little astrology versus astronomy aside.
Well said.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. I tried. So what do we do with this natal chart, and like what exactly does it mean? So the way that CoStar defines it is that astrology defines how we interpret the astronomy of the facts of what is where at the moment of your birth. So for example, what can we say about someone whose Mars is in Gemini? Like, what the hell does that even mean? So they have like a little hypothetical here. So imagine it's late at night and you look up and you see kind of a scary red ball in front of some stars in the shape of a couple fun guys holding hands. Gemini. You've seen this before. You may have seen this once every couple of years, in fact. And during this time, your own scary red energy maybe feels a little more fun and playful, just like it did same time 2 years ago. Could the red ball then be associated with anger and aggression? Could the two fun guys be associated with mischief and play? That's kind of the idea. So every combination of planet and constellation or zodiac sign has a specific meaning. And I really like how they describe it. They say planets are the verbs and signs are the adverbs. So, yes. So the sun, I'm going to go through all the verbs and then I'll pull out just a couple of the signs. So sun is I am fundamentally ... Moon, I experience emotion ... Ascendant or rising sign, I seem ... Mercury, I communicate ... Venus, I love. Mars, I take action. Jupiter, I expand through. Saturn, I discipline myself. Uranus, my generation innovates. Neptune, I dream. And Pluto, my generation experiences power. So, for example, do you have yours pulled up?
I can quickly. I think it's open on my phone.
Take a second. But what I'll do is I'll just like run through a few of these. So I already know your sun. So Amy's sun is in Virgo. So she is fundamentally responsible, meticulous, and wholesome, which I would agree.
Boring.
No, it's not. I mean, mine is fair, just, and relativist. Relativist? Come on, Libra?
Interesting.
I mean,
okay.
But it's funny because, like, I spent a lot of time in therapy talking about being hung up on the fairness or unfairness of things, and it is like a deep foundational part of my self, like my personality. I get like really hung up on it, not just for myself but for other people.
Okay, interesting.
Okay, so hit me with a couple planets.
Okay, let's see. Let's do moon. Leo for me.
Okay. I experience emotion boldly, proudly, attention lovingly, and charmingly.
Interesting.
I like those.
Yes. Venus is also in Leo for me.
Okay. Venus is I love all those same things. I love boldly, proudly, attention lovingly, and charmingly.
Okay. Cool.
You do, I would say. I think that's true.
Let's try, I have a lot of Libra, actually.
Ooh, yeah.
Situation. Let's do Mercury.
Situation. Mercury, I communicate fairly, justly, as a relativist, we'll say. I'm not going to say relativistly. Relatively, I guess.
Relativistically.
Yeah. Jesus, this is a mouthful.
Wait, let me get yours, because I can see yours too.
Oh, yeah. I love this.
We'll do some of
each other's
planets. Okay, what haven't we done? Capricorn, your Neptune. And did you say Uranus? I thought it was Uranus.
It's my dad's gonna love that. It's pronounced Uranus.
Okay.
Which no school kid is gonna believe. They're terrible. Uranus sounds like something else. I don't know. Yeah, not great, but Uranus isn't great either. So
no.
Not my anus, Uranus.
Your anus.
Your anus. Okay, what did you say? Neptune in Capricorn?
Yes.
I dream in a responsible, serious, efficient, and rational way. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, and that's for
But
you. Do you feel like that's accurate?
I mean, I'm not like a head in the clouds kind of person. Like when I have dreams for myself, I do think I definitely err on the side of pragmatic.
Yeah.
And if you're going to take it literally, I have a lot of vivid dreams where I have like, I dream of something that then I wake up and I'm like, was that a dream or did that happen yesterday?
Yeah.
I have a lot of those.
Interesting.
So I don't know.
Yeah.
So that's like just a little sneak peek of kind of what this whole vibe is. So then we kind of get into a little bit more detail. So that's like, it's not simple by any means, but that is like the simplest kind of thing. So we'll go a little bit more into zodiac sun signs. So this is when someone says, I'm a Libra. This is what they mean. That is their sun sign. And it had to do on the last, like the verb is like, I am fundamentally fill in the blank. So it corresponds to the zodiac sign the sun appeared to be in front of when you were born. So because the earth completes one revolution around the sun each year, the sun moves through all of the zodiac sun signs in the same order every year. So that's why you say your birthday, people know what your sun sign is. Everyone born right before the spring equinox, currently in early March, is always a Pisces. There is an offset between sun signs in the tropical and the sidereal zodiacs. And we all use the tropical zodiac. Like that's like what CoStar uses. That's what we have been using. I don't actually know what the sidereal is. I think that might be the one. Remember a while back when they added in 2 more signs or something, or one more, and it like threw out, it makes me like a Taurus or something, which like I do not fit that description whatsoever.
Yeah.
So I'm fine to stay in the tropical, but
okay.
So they put it in this order for whatever reason, starting with Aries. So in 2024, Aries was March 21 to April 19. Taurus is April 20 to May 20. Gemini, May 21 to June 20. So on and so forth. Cancer into the summer months, Leo into summer into fall, Virgo, Libra, Scorpio, moving into the winter, Sagittarius, Capricorn, and then back into January. So we're right now, at the time this is published, in the sign of Capricorn until probably around the 20th of this month, and then Aquarius, then Pisces. So just kind of interesting. Like sun sign is like what everyone thinks of, but there's so much more to it than that. So we'll go next to your rising sign or your ascendant. This is the zodiac sign that was on the eastern horizon when and where you were born. And I think this is interesting because I feel like it's literally like on one side of you and on the other side of you, and you're like sandwiched in between the two, which is so interesting. So it's called the rising sign because that zodiac constellation is rising or ascending into the sky over the eastern horizon. So going back to Nick, our little example baby, that sign was Scorpio, which we said from the beginning. The moon was rising there, and as was the sign in Scorpio. So rising sign is a very important concept in terms of like astrology and how we interpret that for someone's personality. Some astrologers think of the rising sign as how you present yourself in the world. Others think of it as your lens on the world, which I think is very interesting. Yeah. What's your rising sign again?
Leo.
Leo. So how you present yourself in the world, I don't know that I would call you a Leo from that perspective, but I wonder what you think about like your lens on the world.
Well, let me think. Let me
like
look at
big
CoStar.
And bold and like
I think it kind of fits.
Yeah. I think it does.
Yeah. And I have been told that I have a strong energetic presence.
For sure.
It may not be bold like a Leo energy, but I think that is something they say about Leos is that you feel them.
Yes.
Like you feel their presence.
That's true. That's a good point. So, like that it doesn't have to be like pick me, look at me energy, but like big energy, period. Yeah. Like without additional qualifiers.
Like you can't
I like that.
ignore them in a way.
Yeah, definitely.
Even though I feel like sometimes I'm invisible, but
You're like,
I think we all feel that way.
Yeah, we definitely all feel that way sometimes. But I also think how people react to that doesn't always, it's not always indicative of how they interpreted you, if that makes sense. Like, I think a lot of people feel that energy and are like, oh, like, I don't know how to handle that. So I'm just going to like avoid.
Yeah, right.
So I don't know.
Yeah. What's yours? Are you Scorpio?
Mine is Scorpio, which I think is like pretty accurate in terms of how I'm interpreted by others.
Yeah, I can see that.
Tend to be like a little spicy and a little like, I think also flirty, like very emotional as well. A little bit reactive, which I definitely can be. So it's interesting. Like,
yeah.
I also do think like my lens on the world suits that. So in some ways I wonder if like, why not both?
Right.
So I don't know, kind of interesting. So the rising sign changes every 2 hours, which is, again, why the time of your birth is so important. So each day, the entire zodiac appears to move across the sky. It's not moving, we're moving, but it looks like it's moving from our fixed point. This means that every 2 hours, another one of the 12 zodiac signs becomes visible from below the horizon. But they aren't actually moving around us. Earth itself is moving every 24 hours. The Earth rotates 360. Imagine learning that for the first time from CoStar Astrology.
You know, doesn't matter
honestly, you guys, if you're hearing that for the first time, no shade.
Yeah.
That we rotate around once in a day. Or aliens, if you're tuning in. You heard it here first. Stupid. Yeah. I'm dumb.
I hope we have aliens listening.
Same. They're probably like, you know what, we're going to stay away.
Yeah.
Good, do.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's fair enough. So the Earth is doing this while the rest of the solar system also continues its orbit. So there are two types of movement happening. One, the Earth is orbiting the sun, one full revolution in a year. Two, the Earth is rotating on its own axis, one rotation in a day. So it becomes so complicated. There's so much movement happening at once.
Yeah.
So your planet signs like Mercury and Aquarius are based on the Earth's revolution around the sun. Your rising sign is based on the Earth's rotation on its own axis. So what's interesting is if you imagine two people born at the exact same time, but on opposite sides of the Earth, their charts are actually mostly the same. Because from the perspective of the Earth, the planets are in front of the same constellations of stars. The only thing that changes is their relative horizons. So what they see to the east.
Wow, that's kind of weird.
It's super weird and is like really hard for me to wrap my brain around.
Yeah. I can't
imagine. Only thing that changes is their rising sign. Everything else is exactly the same.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah. And then if two people are born 2 hours apart, their charts are also basically the same, but their rising signs are one sign off.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. Cool. It's very interesting. So now we move on to an even more complicated subject, which is houses. So the houses indicate where something plays out or the context. So the houses are very strange and special in that they are not based on astronomical phenomena. So what exactly are they? How do we calculate them? So unlike the rising sign or the zodiac sun sign, which are based on the Earth's yearly revolution around the sun, houses are based on the Earth's 24-hour rotation around its own axis, like we said. So snapshot of the sky, the moment of your birth, the entire sky above and below the horizon lines is divided into these 12 sections for each of the zodiac, starting from the rising sign. These sections are called your houses, and they each symbolize different areas of your life. So this is where it's pure astrology. Like there is no astronomy here aside from like what falls into your house. This is just like a layer that's slapped over the top of your birth chart and then interpreted. So coming back to baby Nick that we were talking about. So the houses are based on the rising sign and what's overhead. So These 2 points are extended through the center to the other side of the circle, forming a cross. And then the 4 points of the cross define the start of 4 angular houses. So bear with me here. So directly overhead is going to be called midheaven. To your right side, which is directly opposite your rising, is descendant, or on the east. The bottom is directly opposite midheaven, called imum coeli. Latin, maybe, I don't know. And then the eastern horizon is your rising or ascending sign. So in numbers, which is how we actually refer to these, if you're looking at 12 on a clock, that's the beginning of the 10th house. If you're looking at 3 p.m., it's beginning of the 7th house, 6 p.m., beginning of the 4th, and then 9 p.m., which is the start of your houses, is beginning of the 1st. So your rising sign is the beginning of the 1st, and then it goes around from 9 back to 9 p.m. So then each of those 4 quadrants is divided into 3 to form the 12 houses. It's extremely complicated, to be honest.
Yes.
And the way it's numbered would make you want to scream. So we're not even going to go into that.
Ignore that
and
part.
You will notice, too, that the lines of the quadrant do not line up perfectly with the zodiac lines. So because like your ascendant is 10% versus 90% into Sagittarius matters. So you can have split houses between 2 constellations, and it matters how much of which constellation is in that given house, which then connects to some area of your life. It is honestly so fascinating. And some of the diagrams they include, I'm like, excuse me. So I'm going to go through the houses, and we're going to go, I know, I feel like I should have explained this from the beginning in a different way, but beginning of your first house is your rising sign, and then it goes counterclockwise. So it doesn't go around the way you'd think. It goes down first. So your first house is self-image, or impressions you make on others. Second house is personal resources and what makes you feel safe and secure. Third house is what you know, surroundings, siblings, familiar patterns. Fourth house is home life, the past, and family. So a lot of these have like external factor components as well. Fifth house is children, pleasure and creativity, self-expression. Sixth house is productivity, service, routines. Seventh house is partnerships, what you bring to the world through others. Eighth is beginnings and endings, transformations and crises. Ninth house is open-mindedness, philosophy, travel, expanded consciousness. 10th is public self, legacy. 11th is social world, friends, how you relate to others. And 12th is unconscious, fantasies, and dreams.
Interesting.
Lot of info.
Yes.
So these are what they call the context, or the nouns, if you will, going back to that original metaphor of verbs, adverbs, and these are now the nouns. So here is an example. Scorpio rules my 12th house. This means I approach secrets, dreams, and the unconscious, which is what defines the 12th house, with intensity and depth, which is Scorpio's adverbs.
Yeah. Okay.
So it makes sense when you like put it into practice, but looking at it all at once, it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
It's very confusing. And it gives me a lot of respect for the Susan Millers of the world and all these astrologers who they know. They're like, oh yeah, well, this is in this house and this is this. And so this. I'm like, how?
It's impressive.
I need flashcards.
Right. It's a big body of knowledge, really.
A lot.
Yeah.
And so here's an added layer, which actually helps me understand it better. So hopefully that's true for everybody. You can always think of the houses in polarities because they're like a color wheel. They're opposite. So like sister signs, houses that are in opposition to each other are thematically connected in some way. So say you were trying to like remember all of this and you're like, okay, I remember that the first house is the private self. The 7th house is then the public self or public persona. So it's like they're always in opposition to one another because there's the balance. So they identify them as independence versus harmony, stability versus trust, facts versus ideas, private versus public life, the self versus the collective, survival versus transcendence. So interesting too, like that last one I feel like is very interesting to me because like a lot of people are dealt cards that make it so that their focus has to be survival. I do not think that is written in the stars. I think that's circumstance and lack of opportunity, but it's just kind of an interesting little add-on.
Yeah, that is interesting.
If this wasn't confusing enough, there are different ways to calculate houses. So
good. Okay.
Yes. CoStar, for example, and I think like Astrology Zone, like Susan Miller, who's like the celebrity astrologer, they use what's called porphyry, Porphyry. And that's the way that we just talked about. So I'm going to like explain it a little and then I'm just going to abandon it because it's honestly feels very complicated.
Okay.
It's the default house system, and house system meaning how they calculate, used at CoStar. For example, at the time of birth, the precise degree of the sign corresponding with the MC or midheaven. So that top 12 o'clock of the chart, aka where the highest point of the sun's path through the sky, the ecliptic, intersects with the meridian, is determined, as is the precise degree of the sign rising on the eastern horizon, the ascendant. So the degree of that sign corresponding with the midheaven marks the cusp of the 10th house. So it's just saying this is how we layer that filter over the top. So it doesn't change, like the things just are where they are, but it's like layering this additional piece on. It makes me feel like I knew nothing about astrology, to be totally honest. Like,
I
don't
feel
understand.
similarly.
Yeah, it's wild. So the way people, like this person who's an astrologer at CoStar, Bear River, they say, with periphery, so long as you know where the sun rose and where the ecliptic culminates, you can face south, wave your hands around in the air, and see the cusps emerge up there. Anything that brings the stars down to earth is A+ in my book. So it is sort of the most straightforward way. There is another way, which is the oldest form of house division, which is called the whole sign house. And it's was really the preferred method of determining houses for about 1,000 years, which is crazy. So whole sign takes the entire span of the zodiac sign that appears on the ascendant at the time of a person's birth as the first house. So there's no offset like there is in the periphery. The following sign makes up the second, the next the third, and so on. So they're all of equal size, 30 degrees in the whole sign system. They're very easy to calculate and use. Obviously, more complicated phenomena, such as an intercepted sign, cannot occur because there's no, and intercepted is where it overlaps a little bit. So, and that's not it. There are other systems. So I'm not going to go into all of them, but I think there's really just 3 more. That's called Placidus. That's time-based, and it was just devised during the Renaissance, which is like, I didn't know they were talking about this stuff this long ago. Like 1,000 years they were using this other one. Like it's just wild to me. And then you get into aspects. So I'm not going to go into a ton of detail about this because like this is like really beyond me. Planets are always making angles to one another. So for example, like if Mercury is in retrograde, that has to do with its aspect. So in astrology, these special angles, some are more important than others, and they're called aspects. So if 2 planets are directly opposite from each other, it means they're opposites. A conjunction is when 2 planets appear to be on top of each other. They aren't, of course, but it looks like they are from the perspective of Earth. When this happens, the energy of the 2 planets unite and blend. So, for example, Gemini and Mars, I take action in a curious, chaotic, witty way. So it's like everything morphed together. And Gemini Sun, I'm fundamentally curious, chaotic, and witty. So it's like you are that and you take action with that. And that is what a conjunction looks like. When two planets are 120 degrees apart, they form a trine. So planets in trine like each other and tend to get along. When two planets are at two corners of a square, they're said to make a square to each other. Planets do not like each other when they're a square. It's an aspect that brings friction and discomfort. So conjunction and opposition are neutral. Square, there's a lot of friction, a lot of frustration. Trine, a semi-sextile and a sextile, which are 30 and 60 degrees respectively, are harmonious and friendly. So most of them are actually kind of positive. And then you get into a semi-square and a it sounds like a bad word. A quincunx.
Okay.
Quincunx. Sorry.
How do you spell that?
Quincunx.
Okay.
It's 150 degrees of whatever. I don't know. Angle.
Just change
150 degrees. Yeah. Mm-hmm. The farther you get down, though, the more complex the angles get, the less important they are. So, like, those are frictiony, but it kind of doesn't matter because they just are not that important.
Okay.
And then the last thing I'll like very briefly touch on are transits and orbs. So transits are time-based patterns that take place at regular intervals based on your chart. An orb is a buffer zone around an angle to define what we count as an aspect. So they're based on the relationship between where a planet is right now and where a planet was at the time of your birth in your natal chart. So, and then it also matters if they're in an aspect with another planet now and they were at the time of your birth, or they're in a good aspect now, we're in a bad one when you were born. Like, it's like, so there's so many layers to it, and it's like actually so bonkers. So the current position of a planet can technically form an aspect with where that same planet was at the time of your birth, and that is called a transit.
Okay.
It's like moving through time and space, literally. So,
wow.
Anyway.
Amazing.
We're going to leave it at that because it just is like really extremely confusing. But also so interesting. And it makes me want to like really learn my birth chart, like way better than I currently understand it. Because I do not understand it to the degree I would like to. So.
And CoStar does a good job of telling about it, I think, but
I think so too.
I don't think they mention like the midheaven and all of those things. It's just like the houses and the planets.
I think that's just because that's how they layer the houses on. So I think they sort of don't say it because it's like the methodology versus like the actual important stuff you want to know. But it's interesting to understand the foundational stuff, and also like if you are going to be a little discerning about what you buy into, this is really helpful to know, right? Because it's like, okay, I just want to understand astrology through like the astronomy piece versus this like layered detail or whatever. So okay, that's my section. Not very paranormal, but weird in that these fucking things predict the future sometimes and like really speak to people, myself included. And I just find it to be so baffling and fascinating all at once.
Yes. And agreed. I was reading a little bit. I didn't include it because I wasn't sure if people would think it was interesting. Like the very early origins of the zodiac was the Babylonians were the ones that started thinking about it in this way. And obviously it's developed a lot since then. But they are like the initial, very first dabbling into the zodiac. So
it blows my mind that like if I had never learned a thing about the planets and the stars and anything to do with outer space, I never, it could not be me to look up at the sky and be like, I wonder what's up with that. Like, why is it changing? If someone was like, it's changing, I'd be like, is it?
Yeah.
Like, I just am not curious in that way.
Yeah. I am the same.
It's kind of embarrassing, but I think I'd be like, I didn't notice.
Yeah. I know. I think about that often.
Hilarious.
With like, I'm so thankful there are people that are engineers, because I just...
Thank God that someone looks at something and is like, how does that work?
Yeah,
I'm like,
who
cares?
As long as it works.
It works, does it not? Oh my God.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
That is interesting. Also, how long has it been since you've seen like incredible stars? Because
a long time.
Back to like those ancient times. At night, you would see galaxies.
Yeah, no light pollution. Yeah. It would be next level.
Yeah.
I mean, Lake Tahoe, maybe. Like they're good. They're not like excellent, but they're pretty good.
Yeah. Yeah. When we go to our land, our property in the mountains, you can see some galaxies, like you can see the Milky Way and stuff, and that is just so mind-blowing. Oh
my God,
can't get enough of staring up at that. It's a totally different experience than looking at it from in town.
I hate camping, but I want to do that so I can see that.
Well,
I want to do that with you because you know how to camp. Yeah, okay, that's fair.
You could leave for the night for sleeping.
Yeah, fair enough. That's a good compromise.
Yeah. Perfect.
Not even a compromise, just like me not wanting to camp.
Yeah.
I'm like, sleeping on the ground? I think not.
Yeah. Well, we need balance. And
exactly.
Now we have a cabin up there. So
that's right. That's so much better.
Progress.
Sorry, it's so much better.
Okay.
Oh,
so
God.
Let's get back to our astrology. Yes. So I have a hodgepodge, so let's just see where to start. Let's do this just for the two of us, just for reference. There is some influence from which house your sun sign is in. So the house that your sun sign is in it significantly affects how you express your core personality traits. It's where you find your life force, providing insight into the areas of life where you naturally seek fulfillment and experience the most vitality.
Okay.
So all those, I can't remember I guess they were the nouns that you were reading for each house. Your sun sign is in your 12th house, which indicates that you are inclined towards spirituality and inner growth. And mine is in my first house, so you and I are, I think, across from each other.
No, right beside.
Oh yeah, next to each other.
Because it goes one down to 12. Yeah,
to 12. Yeah. So that indicates wisdom and a positive outlook on life.
Oh, I feel like that's like accurate for both of us.
So. I agree.
Interesting. This is so interesting.
Yeah, agreed. I love it. Okay, let's see if I have any other little things. Oh yeah. Stelliums is something I did not know about.
No, I've never heard of this before.
Yeah. So it's a cluster of planets within one sign and or house.
Oh, I have a lot of those.
Yes.
Interesting. Okay.
A Libra stellium. And I happen to also have a Libra stellium. So yours spans across 2 houses. Mine is all in the second. So I have a second house Libra stellium, and you just have Libra stellium.
Yeah.
So it's a stellium is, let's see, it indicates that you're able to tap into the qualities of that sign and or house more easily. It can even mean that you could be prone to excessive behavior as it relates to the house or sign your stellium falls into.
Oh, me? Obsessed with fairness?
Yep.
Damn it.
Yep. And I thought this was interesting that oftentimes people who don't strongly identify with their sun signs will have a stellium. Because that offsets.
Yeah, it kind of throws you.
Yeah. And
that's fascinating. I have one in Scorpio too.
Oh, do you really?
Yeah, look,
Ah,
I can show you.
3 signs. Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
there are 4
Interesting. Oh,
in
4.
Scorpio.
Okay, wait, let me
I don't
look at
know what
mine.
these planets are, but let's see. Mercury, Mars, Pluto, and
In
oh,
Scorpio.
I guess it's my ascending. Yeah, is the
Yeah,
4th. So it's 3 plus my rising.
yeah. And I don't know if I don't think the rising
Yeah,
counts
probably
as a
doesn't. But it's
planet.
3 and
So,
3, which is so
yeah,
interesting.
that is cool. Very interesting. Yeah,
So it
Scorpio,
has to be
Libra.
3. It's not more than 1. It's 3 or more.
Yeah, 3, at least 3. It can be
Okay.
more. Like, I was looking at Dave's, and he has 5 in Capricorn.
I need to
So,
get Noah to set it up. I need to
yeah,
text his mom.
yes. Do it. Don't hesitate.
Oh my God.
But yeah, let me go back to my notes. So, let's see. Oh yeah, and so just this is selfish of me to talk about myself, but
Oh no, I want to hear.
the Libra stellium in the second house, because that's where
Uh-huh.
mine is. The second house has to do with like finance and material possessions, which is
Okay.
interesting. And so it means I want to be extremely balanced in my spending, and I have a hard time with big financial decisions, which I
Huh.
think is
That's not what
true.
I thought you were going to say when you said
Yeah.
finance.
No. Because yeah, that's the Libra wanting to
Mm-hmm.
balance the scales. I don't feel strongly about my finances. Like, that's
Yeah.
not, it should be more, I think, important to
Mm.
me because it is
Yeah.
important. And maybe that's something like, should we look to our charts to tell us areas of our lives that we should
Mm.
try to develop in more?
That's interesting.
Maybe.
Maybe.
So,
I mean,
I
they
don't know.
try and guide you towards like, do this, don't do this during this
Mhm.
specific time. But maybe there's also like an always on kind of thing that you should
Right.
probably be doing in order to, reach your full universal potential.
Yes. Yep. So,
Hmm.
it's
Interesting.
interesting.
I like
Yeah.
that take.
hmm
I like that a lot.
So, yeah. And then if you have a stellium in a certain house, it
Uh-huh.
corresponds with those nouns that you were already reading. So,
Mm.
like, a stellium in the first house would be the autonomy, independence, whatever
Okay.
words you
Hmm.
used, and etc. So, I thought that was pretty cool.
Oh, that's
Um,
so interesting. What does Dave Stellium mean?
I should have looked. Let me see. Stellium and Capricorn.
That's where
What are
his is?
Capricorns like? Yeah. Ambition.
Hmm.
Yes. And for him, I actually think that would make sense as an area. Like, he
Of
is
growth.
ambitious,
Hmm.
he has these desires. The execution is
Yeah.
sometimes not there,
Yeah.
and it's
He gets
hard,
hung up.
obviously.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so, yeah, maybe that, like, this is something
Interesting.
we should learn about or focus on
Yeah.
is a valid
Like to
theory.
be a little introspective. Because I feel
Uh-huh.
like it's so, especially when people are doing like New Year's resolutions and things like that, I feel
Mhm.
like there are so many things I want to do. Like,
Yes.
I know they're not all going to get done this year, but even
Right.
if you're just looking like internally at like, what do I want to work on myself this year?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't even know. Like, where do I start? That's
Mhm.
just so much. I'm like
Yes.
just trying to like
Get through the
sift through the
day.
muck. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. So
Oh,
true.
it's funny.
Yeah, very interesting stuff.
So
So,
interesting.
the other thing I wanted to quickly mention is Mercury retrograde, because I'm sure
Oh,
we've
yeah.
all heard that, but maybe some people don't know what it is. And I actually didn't know what it technically is. So Mercury is the closest planet to the sun, and Mercury retrograde is just an optical illusion that happens 3 or 4 times a year where it looks like it's moving in the opposite direction than it normally is. I didn't know it was just an illusion. Like, I really
Mm-hmm.
did not know that. So they describe it as a similar effect to when one car overtakes another, and to those in the faster car, the slower vehicle looks like it's going backwards. So that's the illusion. And
Oh, that's a good way of putting it. Because I knew that, like in theory, but I didn't fully understand like logistically how that works. But it's just because we're technically then going faster at that point in time.
I think so.
Or I guess it has to also do with like the angles of everything, but I get what you mean.
Right. Yeah. So, and surprisingly, people have observed Mercury retrograde for thousands of years.
Oh my God. How?
Who knows? And
I need a telescope.
Go to the planetarium.
Yeah.
I'm sure Toronto must have one.
That'd be cool. Yeah, I'm sure. At probably right here, because there's a university like in our neighborhood.
Do it.
I know. Cool. Maybe we should.
Yeah. But retrograde, when this happens, people think it wreaks havoc on everything. Like, this is a bad time for communication, for
contracts,
like, progress in your life. Yeah.
And there are like rules too. Like, you're not supposed to buy new technology because it'll be like doomed to break always, like forever, not just during retrograde, like forever while you have it. You're not supposed to sign contracts, not supposed to buy property or take a new job. Like it's like the concept is that it'll be like doomed. And then there's a shadow period.
What's that? I didn't even see that.
I don't know if it's actually any like an illusion anymore, but I think it may be. I feel like I read this somewhere and like, don't quote me on it. It's either just like we say there's a shadow period because there's this kind of hangover sensation, like that retrograde feeling. You still kind of have it for a while. But I think it might be that instead of looking like it's going backwards, it looks like it's not moving at all. From our perspective, from Earth's perspective. And so until it starts to look like it's moving with us again, then it's in the shadow period. So like, so everyone, it is December 10th right now when we are recording, not 2025, sorry to burst the bubble. But on Friday, the 13th, retrograde ends. However, the shadow period continues through the end of December. So it's like, you have the retrograde, which is like the really important part, but you still are kind of supposed to follow the rules through the shadow period. So it ends up being like 3 or 4 full months collectively out of the year that Mercury's in retrograde with the shadow period included. So anyway.
Okay.
I don't know.
Well.
Yeah.
Oh boy. Yeah.
Oh boys, right.
It's a lot to keep in mind.
A lot.
Yeah. I feel like I've felt Mercury retrograde, but I also don't always know when it is until I see the memes on social media.
Totally. Especially when like, and I feel like it, there's a little bit of that like confirmation bias where you're like, oh, it has felt fucked up lately. I also like a lot of the time I'm like, I think that's just my hormone cycle, not Mercury's trip around the sun, but what do I know?
Yep. And just life these days, man.
Exactly.
Yeah. So,
man.
I'm gonna jump ahead because I know we've been talking a long time.
I know. I yapped a really long time. Sorry.
I thought it was very interesting.
Okay, good.
And hopefully people are still with us.
Yeah. Well, we're going to find out. We're going to find out in about a month.
Perfect. Okay. I should just say something crazy and see if anyone comments on it.
See if anybody comments. Exactly.
Maybe they're not listening.
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, I'm going to now talk about shapes in the charts.
Oh, yeah.
So there are, I think, 6 to 9. The article I went with had just 6. So this first one is called the locomotive pattern, and it forms when planets occupy 2/3 of the chart, leaving a wide gap that looks like an empty field. So this configuration suggests a life driven by a strong sense of purpose and direction. The leading planet, which is just ahead of the empty space, acts as the engine of somebody's life, defining the primary focus or motivation. Individuals with this chart shape are often self-starters, filled with dynamic energy that propels them towards their goals. They may, however, experience feelings of imbalance or intense pressure to act, as if constantly being pushed by an unseen force or an engine.
That's my dad.
Really?
Yeah, I literally, you were saying that and I was like, ooh, I bet that's my dad.
Yeah.
He totally has that. You said 2/3, so
Yeah,
there's like a
roughly
whole
2/3.
like third of the thing that's just open space.
Interesting.
Very interesting.
I can picture that.
Yeah.
I don't know him well, but I feel like, yeah.
Yeah. And I won't share what is the engine, but
Right.
it is his sun sign.
Oh,
and he is like to a T his zodiac, his sun sign.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. That's really, really interesting.
Yeah. Very cool. Because, now we're on to our shape. Number 2 is the bowl shape pattern.
With a bowl.
A bowl. And that's, as you can imagine, when all the planets are within half of the wheel. So this shape indicates a self-contained personality with a focused and introspective nature. People with a bowl chart shape tend to be highly self-reliant, often feeling as though they carry their own universe within them. Their challenges often revolve around overcoming a sense of limitation or isolation, learning to reach out across the chart's empty half to integrate external influences. So
interesting.
Then there's also with that, and I should have copied it in here, I saw something saying that the bull, like which half of the chart it's in, also tells you something. And I know for the left side, which I think is where yours is, that has to do with like codependence.
Oh, interesting.
And
I don't think that's entirely wrong.
Yeah, a little bit, maybe. Yeah. And the bottom, the bottom, which is where mine is,
you,
is introversion, like extremely.
Okay. Oh, so that's really interesting.
That's me.
Yep. I wonder if Noah's chart is very similar to yours.
Yeah,
because he's the year before. He's also a Libra, and I think has. Basically, I'm dating you.
Yeah.
I was gonna say like some very similar qualities. Like there's like a quiet confidence, like intelligence. There's like the humor aspect, and definitely an introversion element as well. Like very analytical, very like inner world focus, which is I need to message his mom.
Yeah, do it right after this.
When was he born? She's gonna not remember. I think I had him ask her one time and she didn't remember. So I'm like, where's your birth certificate?
Yeah, we have to know. That is so funny. Because actually, I think I said something similar, had a similar thought when I first brought this up. Because you and Dave both have Scorpio placements in the, is it moon or rising, where it's like how you present yourself. And I can see that.
We're dating each other. It's perfect.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a reason why we are such good friends.
100%.
So it makes sense.
Yeah, attracted to that in other people too. Yeah.
Yep. Okay, then let's get to number 3. Yeah. Is the bucket shape, which I think we talked about, and I think maybe your mom or somebody that you have on there is. So it's when, actually it was your dad.
Oh no, it is my dad. You're right.
And then there's one lone planet that's opposite. So it's in 2/3 of the cluster, but with one like jutting up like the handle of the bucket.
I don't know now though, because we didn't talk about the locomotive one. Now I think he's that one. I'll have to show you. I don't want to show it on here, but I'll have to show you and you'll have to tell me what you think. Yeah. And Dad, sorry, I'm like doxing you right now. He's gonna be like, you spooky doxed me. But I'm not revealing anything about you other than
the
it's shape of your chart.
General idea of who you are.
Someone would have to be a genius to figure out who he is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Okay.
Yeah. So this bucket shape So yeah, 2/3 of the wheel, except for one lone planet that's opposite the cluster.
Mm-hmm.
This outlier planet, which is known as the handle, channels and focuses the energy of the entire chart, much like a fulcrum or a control lever. This configuration endows an individual with a specific area of life that becomes a central point of emphasis or a dominant theme.
Interesting.
Yep. Then we have the splash pattern, where planets are scattered evenly around the entire zodiac, which I was looking through my friends. I don't have that many on here. Almost everyone has a bowl shape except Kayla has a splash pattern.
Oh. Oh my god, I don't have Kayla on here. You have to give me her thing after this.
Yes. Add
her.
I forced her to do it.
Yeah, of course.
So that I could look.
Yeah.
But yeah, okay, so scattered evenly around the zodiac, it suggests a multifaceted personality with a wide range of interests and abilities. Individuals with this chart shape are typically versatile and adaptable, able to draw on a broad spectrum of talents. The challenge for them lies in finding focus and depth, as their energies are dispersed across so many areas. Okay, then the last two, we have the splay pattern, which features 3 or more planets grouped in a trine formation, which you mentioned, and now I already forget what it meant.
It's just a triangle. It's just making a triangle.
Okay. Yeah, so it's like 3 distinct clusters in the chart, is how they describe it. This shape speaks to a strong independent streak in an individual, with the focal clusters acting as power bases. So each cluster represents a stronghold of talent or interest, giving these individuals the ability to operate autonomously in various life areas. And then finally, we have, with planets distributed across 2 opposite sides of the chart, is the seesaw pattern. It creates a dynamic of tension and balance. So this configuration often reflects a life that swings between 2 polarities, which can manifest in personal traits, relationships, or external circumstances. Individuals with this pattern may find themselves constantly negotiating opposites, striving to find harmony and conflict or balance in extremes.
Oh, interesting. I wonder, like, I guess this, like, was it the splatter one? Or the spray?
Splash or spray?
Splash. The splash one. I guess that is kind of the catch-all for anyone who doesn't really fit into the others.
Yeah.
Because there are a couple, like, I'm looking at a couple that I'm like, this could be a bucket, but it has, like, kind of 2 handles. So then is it a splash? I don't know. Like, some of them don't really seem to fall 100% into all of them, but like Sarah, for example, has what's it called, a stellium in Capricorn, which like she's a Sagittarius, so like but that actually makes sense because she has a lot of Cap personality traits for sure.
Qualities. Yeah.
So I don't know. It's so God. This is like I feel like I need like to set aside 4 hours to like go in depth into even just my own chart and then everybody else's.
Yep. It is so interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I just looked at one of my friends' charts. I'm just gonna, I guess
cover there.
I'll show it to you later.
Okay.
It's like so. I hadn't looked at that one yet. Okay. Anyway, let's close it out. Now we have some astrological predictions for this coming year. So I'm just going to read
good
this.
For the love of God.
We'll just read this directly from astrology.com.
Great.
So they say eclipses, retrogrades, planetary shifts. Oh my. So swift change is on the way in 2025, and it's time to embrace the shifts with trust, bravery, and confidence. Whenever outer planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto move into a new zodiac sign, we experience a collective shift from one era to the next. In 2025, 4 of these 5 planets are shifting, following Pluto, which shifts in 2024 permanently into Aquarius for almost 20 years.
I'm sorry, Q pause for a second. I don't know why this didn't dawn on me that the outer planets would literally spend years in one sign.
Yeah.
Like I've read that before and it just like didn't like fully sink in. That's crazy. Okay, keep going.
No, that is interesting
because their trajectory is gigantic. It takes forever.
Yes. So I think like our entire generation, millennials, would have the same Pluto, probably. I don't know, maybe not Pluto, but some same planet.
Yeah, some outer planet. Yeah. It's crazy.
Yeah. So now that Pluto is permanently in Aquarius until 2044, the universal energy is officially power to the people, but not immediately. We are in an intense time of transformation and rebirth, with Pluto in the zodiac sign that is connected to humanity, innovation, rebellion, and forward thinking. As a collective, it may feel like we're charging into 2025 with conflicting agendas and power struggles, but this is intentional. We are on a wave of human evolution that will ascend us to a higher level of consciousness, empathy, understanding, and compassion.
I hope that's true.
I'm really hopeful.
I really hope that's true. That gives me goosebumps and kind of makes me want to cry.
Me too. Yeah, same. I feel a little teary thinking about, especially the United States. I mean, the whole world, but
where we're at. Yeah.
Just with our current political climate.
Yeah.
We need that. Yeah. So 2025 will catapult us into action when Saturn and Neptune move into cardinal fire sign Aries, kicking off a trailblazing cycle, followed by Uranus's move into Gemini, bringing change to communication, technology, travel, and education. Neptune will enter Aries on March 30th, where it will stay until October 22nd, 2025, ushering in a new wave of creativity. We may see gains in visual arts, a new spiritual movement, and the blurring of individual ideologies. Neptune, at its best, is heart-centered and soft in nature, but in Mars-ruled, self-preserving Aries, it will stir up confusion regarding what should be prioritized. And they had an astrologer named Breitenstein. He says, in 2025, we are collectively invited to get for real about the dreams we want to see actualized in our lives. Neptune's entrance into Aries, coupled with Saturn's quick dip into the same sign, is a powerful opportunity to embrace the me that lives inside the collective we, to boldly claim this is what I want and then just go for it. So, there's a lot more. I think this is good for now.
Summarizes it well.
Yeah, but there's a lot of more detail about the planets entering certain signs, and also the eclipses that are coming, which is pretty interesting. And
it's so interesting. Oh my God. It's endless. Everything that you could possibly know and learn about, it seems never ending.
Yes, exactly. So check out astrology.com. It sounds like
promising.
A huge time of transition and newness.
Yeah.
And hopefully it's for the best in the end. Exactly. It doesn't feel that way right now, but
no, but I like, the idea of rebellion and changing ideologies as well. I think that's needed all over the world. I feel like things have just gotten very stale. Yeah, it's interesting.
It is.
Well, we're wishing everyone a very happy and healthy 2025 with hopefully some big positive changes for all of you. No major changes here. We'll be back next week.
Exactly. You can count on us.
You can count on us.
We'll be back.
Exactly. Please rate and review the pod if you like it. You can follow us on social at Girls Gone Spooky. You can DM us or email us at girlsgonespooky@gmail.com. And I think that's it. We'll see you guys next week. Until then, stay spooky.
Bye.
Bye.